Assalamualaikum and good day to the panels and audience. I will be presenting on my final year project entitled Effect of Temperature and Wind Speed on the Economic and Environmental Feasibility of Different Solar PV in Malaysia. The researcher is me myself, Karuna Anisha binti Ahmad Syafi'i, from School of Mechanical Engineering and supervised by Dr. Al-Hassan Salami Tijani. For introduction, we are going to see an overview efficiency of solar PV panel affected by the climatic factors, such as ambient temperature and wind speed. Next is by installing grid-connected PV system in the residential house. Excess energy can be generated to the NB grid to gain profitability. Daily load curve, efficiency of PV, estimated energy generation, economical factor, and CO2 avoidance will be analyzed. Now we are moving on to literature review section. To this end, the significant development made in PV technology to date has resulted in an exponential rise in global installed PV capacity. At present, the PV market is currently expanding fast, with global capacity reaching more than 350 gigawatt in 2020, as you can see in figure 1. Apparently, Malaysia has contributed approximately 0.2% to the installation of solar panel worldwide and expected to be rising in the future. The PV industry is one of the fastest growing sectors in the world, with an average annual growth rate of approximately 30 to 45%. As a result, PV installations are no longer viewed as niche market supporter. PV technology, on the other hand, is becoming increasingly competitive with primary sources of energy generation, and so qualifies as a critical component of the world's energy supply. Moving on to the next slides. A wide range of environmental, orographic, spatial, and climatic factors need to be taken into account to select a site for developing a solar PV system with high average annual power performance and low balance of system costs. According to Vazel and Iacovidis 2017, among all these factors, climatic factors including solar irradiance, ambient temperature, and wind speed have the most significant impact on the power production efficiency of any solar PV panel. Solar cells are typically named after the semiconducting material they are made of. These materials must have certain characteristics to absorb sunlight. These technologies can be classified into first and second generation. First generation panels include silicon solar cells, such as mono and polycrystalline, while second generation are thin films such as amorphous silicon, CDTE, and CIGS cells. In this study, we emphasize in specific three types, which is monocrystalline, polycrystalline, and amorphous silicon. Monocrystalline are made of single silicon crystal, which fabricated from an ingot of single crystal. Polycrystalline is a combination of many crystals in a block of silicon. Rectangular ingots of multi-crystalline panel are formed and sliced into thin wafers. Monocrystallines are typically the most expensive but serve the best efficiency, followed by polycrystalline. Next, amorphous silicon is the non-crystalline form of silicon. This type of solar panel are less expensive but slightly less efficient than other types or require more surface area to generate the same amount of power. A study carried by UKM experts has concluded that monocrystalline and polycrystalline give the best performance under hot sun, while copper indium selenide and thin film perform better in cloudy days. In this study, there are 6 steps to achieve the objectives. First and foremost is the selected locations. The location chosen in this research is Pematang Pauh, Shah Alam, Gambang, Pasir Gudang, and Kuching. The latitude, longitude, and altitude must be determined in order to construct for the simulation. Next is proposing a grid-connected solar residential house design. Based on the figure 2, we can see that the residential house consists of solar panel, DC-AC converter, PV meter, and fuse board. The amount of load consumption of common electrical appliances used in household are made by assumptions. The average daily, weekly, and monthly of energy consumption is shown in the box below. As in figure 3, the maximum consumption of electricity in household is at 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. with 3.61 kilowatt. Regarding to this data, PV system should at least yield 86.64 kilowatt hour in a day, multiplied to 365 days, which will produce at least 31.624 megawatt hour yearly. For mathematical modeling, equation in box 1 were used to determine the cell temperature for each solar type. By using the result from that, equation in box 2 can be used to obtain the efficiency of the solar PV module. Two software are used in this study. To begin with, Meteornom 7.3 is a software where we can extract meteorological data across the world, such as its solar radiation, ambient temperature, wind speed, and etc. Moving on to the next software, which is called as PVSys, a simulation to generate data of annual yield output for each material by using constant parameters as shown in Table 2. For economical modeling, there are three criteria need to be considered. Payback period, the length of time it takes for accumulated profit to meet total initial investment. Initial investment, maintenance costs, and solar income coming from FIT rates are costs that need to be taken into account. Next is net present value, NPV. NPV is capital budgeting or financial appraisal of a project with a long-term period, which fixed to 21 years of number of periods under the FIT scheme. The third one would be the levelized cost of energy, stands for LCOE. LCOE defines as analysis of the present value of the generated electrical energy's price by considering the economic life of the PV system, where the discount rate is not considered. Global warming has become a constant issue. Thus, solution for the reduction of greenhouse gases should be made. From this solar panel installation, the CO2 emission can be reduced. According to Sustainable Energy Development Authority (SEDA) portal, CO2 are based on the calculation of annual energy production. The baseline CO2 emission for electricity generation used in this study is 0.964 tons per megawatt hour for Peninsula of Malaysia and 0.536 tons per megawatt hour for Sabah and Wilayah Persekutuan Labuan in 2014. CO2 avoidance is determined by using the equation as shown in the box. Moving on to the results and discussion. Meteornom 7.3 software has generated forecast data for solar radiation and ambient temperature for Shah Alam, Pematang Pau, Gambang, Pasir Gudang, and Kuching in the year 2020 as well as future years of 2040 and 2050. Figure 4 shows the intercorrelation of the effect of solar irradiance and ambient temperature. Based on the result, it is apparent the same trends for each year, which are as higher global solar radiation leads to higher ambient temperature. Pematang Pau has the greatest of global radiation and ambient temperature, and the least is Kuching for year 2020, 2040, and 2050. Wind speed data is also generated from Meteornom software. The forecasted data of various wind speed for each month at all selected cities for current year of 2020 and future years of 2040 and 2050 are illustrated in the figure 5. It can be observed that the frequency of wind speed of these selected locations in Malaysia is in the range of 0.5 to 3.5 meter per second. There is fluctuation in the global solar irradiance received as the wind speed increases. Shah Alam recorded the highest annual mean wind speed, and Kuching has the least. The wind speed data obtained for future years of 2040 and 2050 are mostly the same or slightly increased or decreased trend. Figure 6 shows the comparison between previous study from article Albani and Ibrahim 2013 using Weibull and Rayleigh models and present study in Kuching. It shows the same trend line where the highest peak of wind speed is in January and February and relatively low for other months. The wind speed data obtained for previous and present study is from Malaysia Meteorological Department MMD stations and Meteornom software respectively. This can be concluded that there is not much difference between previous study and present work. Malaysia is in a lower pressure region which caused this variation. Thus, the wind speed in Malaysia is generally low. Direct correlation between ambient temperature and cell temperature are demonstrated in figure. This finding supports by the evidence in the previous study conducted by Camus and others in 2019. As the ambient temperature increases, the cell temperature of solar module also increases. Increasing cell temperature results in the efficiency shortfall. It is encouraging to compare this figure with that found by Caldelis and others in 2014 and Sahan and others in 2016, with results provided illustrates a considerable decreasing trend in the efficiency of solar photovoltaic as the temperature, so the PV cell increasing. Monocrystalline has the highest efficiency among all PV technologies, followed by polycrystalline and amorphous silicon. Efficiency of the solar module affects the performance and production of electricity of the PV system. Each material has different energy yield output according to the solar radiation received throughout the year. The results are simulated in PVC software. It can be clearly seen that monocrystalline received the highest annual yield output, followed by polycrystalline and amorphous silicon based on the bar chart in figure 19. Pematang Power produced the most annual yield energy generated by PV system, followed by Gambang, Pasir Gudang, Shah Alam and Kuching in the last place. The result in figure 10 shows the payback period for each location in Malaysia. The shortest period to recover the investment cost is in Pematang Power, with 6.4, 6.1 and 4.9 years for monocrystalline, polycrystalline and amorphous silicon respectively. Kuching is the location where it takes the longest time to regain its initial cost, with 7.9 years for monocrystalline, 7.1 years for polycrystalline, followed by 6.1 years for amorphous silicon. The residents may evaluate the time it will take to recover their capital investment cost and identify the best PV module to install at their rooftop by using this method and considering whether it is profitable or not to invest. The profitability of the solar system can be obtained by this method. The NPV of three different materials of solar panel consists of monocrystalline, polycrystalline and amorphous silicon at different locations in Malaysia for year 2020, 2040 and 2050 are shown in figure 11. Based on the figures below, monocrystalline solar panel gives the highest amount of NPV for all the locations, followed by polycrystalline and amorphous silicon. Hence, Pematang Power is the best location to install monocrystalline PV module. Due to the higher the NPV, the larger the profit margin, which translates to a greater financial advantage for the residents. The most significant design requirements for most solar PV project is to reduce the levelized cost of energy LCOE. Every component of the electrical system as well as the entire project should be thoroughly examined and optimized. Based on the table 3, material solar PV that has the lowest LCOE is monocrystalline, followed by polycrystalline and amorphous silicon. The least LCOE is 0.17 kWh of amorphous silicon in Pematang Power, while the highest is RM 0.26 per kWh of monocrystalline in Kuching. The goal is for the levelized cost of energy LCOE to be as low as possible. The cost and availability of land and plant components will have an influence on deciding between high efficiency or high cost module and low efficiency or low cost modules. In comparison to low amorphous silicon or intermediate polysilicon, efficiency module, high efficiency module, monocrystalline, require much less land, cabling and support structure per megawatt peak installed. The graph in figure 20 shows the amount of CO2 which can be reduced by implementing the solar PV system for each location as well as in expected future years. The city which indicates the most CO2 avoidance is Pematang Power, and the least one is in Kuching. Overall, these results indicate that the amount of CO2 can be saved with higher annual energy output of solar panel system. Last but not least, Pematang Power is the best location for solar PV installation compared to other cities because it has the highest level of CO2 avoidance in the year 2020 and also in the future years. To conclude, this study has identified that the reduction in efficiency due to the increase of cell temperature. The increase in solar cells temperature due to the high global radiation, which leads to the escalation of ambient temperature with relatively low wind speed. Moreover, it was found that monocrystalline has the best solar module to be invested, despite high installation costs, where it gives the best efficiency and the greatest solar yield output compared to polycrystalline and amorphous silicon. In addition, high-efficiency modules, which is monocrystalline, require much less land, cabling and support structures per megawatt peak installed due to limitation of space, where the solar system is installed on the rooftop of the residential. Among all the locations that were chosen in this research, Pematang Pauh has the most abundant in solar irradiance, which makes it the most strategic place to install the PV for current and future years, and it gives the best result on economic and environmental impact assessment. As for recommendation, further studies need to be carried out by considering the environmental factors such as sand or dust risk and humidity to obtain more detailed data to evaluate the efficiency of the solar panel. That is all from me, and thank you for listening. If you have any concerns or questions, please reach me through the comment section down below or through my email or contact number. Thank you.